So here we will look at the questions on aggregate demand and aggregate supply. First question, the aggregate demand curve shows the amount of real output that will be purchased at each possible price level. So this one, when we when it talks about real output, we look at real gross domestic product. Aggregate demand curve is showing us the relation between price and real gross domestic product, and this curve is downward sloping. Okay. Now this curve is downward sloping because of this interest rate effect, real balances effect, and foreign purchases effect. Now moving forward to question number 3. Interest rate effect suggests that. Answer is going to be B here, and I was initially planning on doing this concept later on, but because this is a question here, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Let me explain this question or explain the solution here. Interest rate effect suggests that an increase in price level. When price increases, people are going to demand more money. So the money demand curve is a down sloping straight line. We have the quantity of money on the vertical axis. We have this quantity of money is on the horizontal axis. And we have the interest rate on the vertical axis. We make the assumption that money supply line is fixed. That means money supply is not really changing here. And the next thing we have here is an increase in money demand. Increase the demand for money. So this means the money demand curve will shift to the right from MD1 to MD2. Remember, the supply of money is staying fixed in the economy because the Federal Reserve Bank, they control the supply of money. We have two intersection points, A and B. At A, the interest rate is 4%. B, we have a higher interest rate, which is 5%. So when price increases, what we see is the interest rate also going up. Now, then comes the next part. Interest rate is up. What happens to the investment? If we have interest rate again on the vertical axis, quantity of investment on the horizontal axis, we can draw the investment demand curve, which is a downward sloping straight line. And we really did this in the last chapter on basic economic relations. Say the interest rate is 4%, quantity of investment is 100 billions of dollars. This is point A. Now the interest rate goes up from 4% to 5%. Amount of investment in the economy goes down from 100 to 80. So investment spending is going to go down. And who makes all this investment decision? Households or businesses? Businesses. And what do households do? When interest rates are going up, they are going to borrow less and consume less. Now, aggregate demand curve is a downward sloping line here, and the components we have aggregate demand is consumption, investment, government expenses, and net exports. Because of this interest rate effect, My investment will go down, my consumption will go down. Yes, and basically the real gross domestic product will also go down. Say if I'm at point A here, and this graph is the aggregate demand curve. Because of the interest effect, I'm going to move from point A to point B. So point A, the real gross domestic product is 100. Point B, the real gross domestic product is 80. So when I'm looking at the aggregate demand curve, I'm measuring real gross domestic product on the horizontal axis. I'm measuring price on the vertical axis. So the price increases, real gross domestic product goes down. This happened because there is a decrease in consumption and decrease in investment spending. Okay. Now take a look at question number 4 here. They're asking us about the real balances effect. Okay, so let's look at what happens when price level increases. So this has something to do with the consumption part of aggregate demand. Consumption will go down if price level increases. Okay, so the answer will be this one. Higher price level will decrease the real value of many financial assets and therefore reduce spending. So that's why this is the answer here. Choice A is not the answer because choice A is telling us increase spending. The answer will be reduce spending. That means your consumption is going down. Okay. Now going to question number 5 here. It says in the diagram a shift from AS1 to AS2. That means the aggregate supply curve is shifting to the right. That means the supply is increasing. Why would the supply increase? Look at the choices here. Okay, definitely it's gonna be this one. Decrease in prices of domestic resources. So when input prices goes down, aggregate supply curve shifts to the right. Now going to question number 6 here. It says refer to the diagrams in which AD1 and AS1 are the before curves and AD2 and AS2 are the after curves. A recession is depicted by what? We are going to have a recession for two reasons. Number one, the aggregate demand shifts to the left and the aggregate supply or the aggregate supply shifts to the left. So my answer will be this one. Aggregate demand is shifting to the left. Also this one where the aggregate supply is shifting to the left. But definitely not this one because over here the aggregate supply and aggregate demand is shifting to the right. Okay. Moving on to question number, let me see here. This is 7 here. In the accompanying table for a particular economy, C, I, G, and X minus M, these are all given to us. And we have 4 answer choices. And this is something which you need to work out. So I'm just going to tell you how to do it and you can do the rest by yourself. So you just have to look at the C plus I plus G plus X minus M and see which one matches up. So I'm just giving you the hint here, or more than the hint, and then it is your task to go on and do the math here and solve this problem. So basically, I'm writing down the value of real gross domestic product. Right, the next one, 24 plus 8 plus 3 plus x minus 2. And the next question, why am I writing it this way? Why am I subtracting something? I'm subtracting this M because aggregate demand is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Do the math and you'd see the result is gonna be, for this question, the answer is gonna be B. But please do the math here. That will make you understand this question better. Already, prices and wages are flexible upwards but inflexible downwards. That means these are sticky downwards. That means these do not, those are not going to go down. These are not going down, not going to decrease. And we looked at the reasons why prices and wages are sticky. Right, I'm just moving ahead of myself here. Now we look at question number 9. Refer to the graph. Which of the following factors does not explain a movement along the aggregate demand curve? Interest rate effect explains a movement. This one does. This one does not. This one does. So your answer will be C. Now question number 10. In the Great Depression of 2007-2009, stock market values shrank, causing a reverse what? Reverse wealth effect. That means the aggregate demand curve is gonna shift to the left. Okay. Now question number 11, in the accompanying graph, which of the following factors will shift the aggregate supply curve from AS1 to AS2? So the aggregate supply is increasing here, and we look at the following answer choices. Definitely not this one, which is an increase in input prices. This will shift the aggregate supply to the left. Increase in productivity. Oh, okay, increase in AS1 to AS3. My bad. That means the aggregate supply is basically decreasing. Sorry about that. Increase in input prices. Yes, this is the answer. This is going to shift the aggregate supply curve to the left. But if it was from AS1 to AS2, your answer will be B, increase in productivity, also a decrease in business taxes. Okay. All right, now let's go take a look at question number 12. It says if the aggregate supply curve shifts from AS1 to AS2, then the price level will do what? This is just as simple as possible. Is shifting from AS1 to AS2 here. The price level is going up and the domestic output is going down. That's question number 12 here. This one is the answer. The domestic output going down is called a recession. Prices going up. This one is called an inflation. And if we combine inflation and recession, the term that we have for this is called a stagflation. Okay. Now moving over to question number 13. It's talking about the Ratchet Effect. This has to do with the aggregate demand curve shifting to the left from AD1 to AD2, and the prices will not decrease. What decreases is the real output or the real gross domestic product. So ratchet effect, my prices will not go down. So my answer here will be aggregate demand shifts from AD1 to AD2. The economy moves from point A to point B. So this is can you stay the same. Prices are sticky downwards. So this is gonna be this answer. All right, moving forward to question number 14 here. When there is an increase in aggregate demand in the short run, there will be an increase in price level, but not the level of output or employment. This is absolutely false here, because if aggregate demand curve shifts to the right, price and output both are going to go up. Question 15. When economy is experiencing demand pull inflation, its real gross domestic product tends to be rising. This is true. Yes, that means this one here, this is the aggregate demand. This one's the aggregate supply. If the aggregate demand shifts to the right from the horizontal axis, real gross domestic product will go up. All right, question number 16. The so-called ratchet effect refers to the characteristic of the economy where product prices, wages, and per unit production cost are flexible right when aggregate demand increases, but not when aggregate demand decreases. That means prices and wages, this can increase but not decrease. Question 17. A decrease in aggregate demand in the short run. Remember, like the demand curve, for the aggregate demand curve, the output and price level always moves in the same direction. If aggregate demand goes down, price and output, these are also gonna go down. Question 18, cost push inflation. This is caused by aggregate supply curve shifting to the left with no change in aggregate demand. Question number 19, demand pull inflation in the short run refers to aggregate demand shifting to the right. All right, question 20 is the easiest as can be. Here they're asking for equilibrium price and output level. You'd see where the aggregate demand is going to intersect the aggregate supply curve, and what I just explained when I was doing this chapter, this is going to be the short run equilibrium. So this one is the short run equilibrium. Short run equilibrium means the aggregate demand and the short run aggregate supply are gonna cut each other like this. This is my demand curve. Then I'm gonna have an aggregate supply curve here. This point A is my short run equilibrium. I keep repeating myself here because I want you to notice what we have on the vertical axis and what we have on the horizontal axis. All right, moving forward to question number 21. If Congress passed new laws significantly increasing the regulation of business, this would do what? That's question number 21 here. This will shift the aggregate supply curve to the left, increase per unit production cost, and shift the aggregate supply curve to the left. Choice B is the answer, not choice A, because choice A is talking about decrease in per unit production cost. Remember, more laws and regulations increases the per unit cost of production. Alright, going to question number 22 here. Suppose the economy produces 2400 units of output, employing 60 units of input, and the price of the input is $30 per unit, all else remaining the same. If input prices decreases from $30 to $20, what happens? So to answer this question, I want you to look at something else here. So here I'm going to share this PowerPoint file where it talks about productivity and per unit production costs. So the formula for productivity is total output over total input, and per unit production cost is total input cost over total output. So to solve this problem, I'm going to repeat myself. Please take a look at this. Take a look at this formula. So let me share this, stop sharing this. And right now I'm going to go ahead and share this question again. All right, so what did we see here? Productivity has to do with total product over, we just saw in the PowerPoint here, total output over total input. So my total output was 2400 units and the total input is equal to 60. So how would the productivity change here? So my productivity is 2400 over 60. So this is equal to 40. So basically the productivity is going to be the same because it did not say that amount of input is changing. But what happens to the aggregate supply curve? Aggregate supply is total input cost over total output, right? So this is what we have here. Aggregate supply was, if we just see the total input cost, all right, it's gonna be 60 times, hang in there. So this is gonna be, let me change this. So this is 60 times, okay, the price of each input is gonna, all right, 60 times 30. This is the total input cost over total output. All right. We have 60 inputs, price per input is 30, so the total price input cost is 60 times 30. Now aggregate supply 2 is 60 times 20. So this is basically what I'm doing is calculating this one here, which is called the per unit cost of production. Already, so the per unit, okay, bear with me for a moment here. So this is the per unit production cost. This basically went down from this one to this one. And as this is going down, the aggregate supply curve will shift to the right or is going to increase. So your answer is this one. The productivity stays the same, but aggregate supply will definitely go up. This really helps when you try and take a look at the formulas and do these problems. Alrighty, question number 23 here. Here is telling us refer to the graph which shows an aggregate demand curve. The price level is going down from 200 to 100. What happens as a result of that? Alright, so my price level is going down from 200 to 100. So 200 is associated with an output of, let me see if you can all see this part here. Okay, this 200 is associated with an output of 600. 100 is associated with an output of 800. So basically this one went up from 600 to 800. So this is gonna go up by 200. All right, question number 24. The long run aggregate supply curve assumes that both output prices and product prices, both of these are variable. Okay. Question number 25 here. The long run aggregate supply curve is vertical. That's pretty much straightforward. Okay. So next we go take a look at question number 26, which says the short run aggregate supply curve. This becomes steep at output level above the full employment output. So this is what the aggregate supply curve looks like. This one is the long run aggregate supply curve. This one is the full employment output level. Now, this is my short run aggregate supply curve. It kind of becomes steep. Like here, this part is becoming steep after we cross the full employment output level. Okay. Now, question number 27. The short run aggregate supply curve shows a direct relation between price and real gross domestic product produced. This is aggregate supply curve. Vertical axis we have price. Horizontal axis we have the real gross domestic product. Now moving over to question number 28 here. Question number 28 is telling me refer to the graph. Suppose the aggregate demand curve increased from 81 to 82 already. It just increased from 81 to 82 here. And the question this is asking me is for the price level to stay constant at P1, what would happen? I would say for this to stay the same here, the aggregate supply curve, this has got to shift to the right from AS1 to AS2. Alrighty, that was 28 here. Question number 29 in the accompanying table for a particular country. C is the consumption, I is the gross investment. Then we have G is the government expenses, X is export, M is import. Nation's equilibrium price is equal to 125. Then they're asking us what will be the net exports. All right, question number, this is like as easy as possible. Net exports will be equal to X minus M. So this is equal to 2 minus 4, and this is going to be negative 2. I don't see there is anything tricky in this question. Now question number 30 here. It says if the equilibrium real gross domestic product is 31, what will be the equilibrium price level? Here I'm going to ask you to do it this way. You are going to add C plus I plus G, add exports, from that you subtract imports, you will get the values of real gross domestic product, and you would look for the value where the real gross domestic product is 31 billion, and then you look at the price levels and you are going to find your answer to this problem. I'm not going to do it right now here. I'm just going to leave it to you to do it because that question is very simple. All right, question number 31. Which of the diagrams for the US economy best portrays the effect of dramatic increase in energy prices? This will be aggregate supply shifting to the left. So question 31 here, the answer choice is going to be B. Question number 32. Which of the following portrays the effect of decline in prices of imported resources? This will be aggregate supply shifting to the right, and this is going to be A. Okay. Now going over to question number 33 here. Which of the following portrays the effect of an increase in foreign spending on US products? This is gonna be the aggregate demand curve shifting to the right. This one is C. Now look at question number 34 here. It says a shift of the aggregate demand from AD1 to AD0. That means it's shifting to the right here. This can be caused by what? I look at the answer choices. This can be caused by an increase in investment spending. So if any of this increases, the aggregate demand curve is going to shift to the right. All right, question number 35 here. It says the aggregate supply curve is AS1 and aggregate demand curve is AD0. That means we are at point 8 here. Okay, so refer to the graph here. So what is my answer choice here? Oh, okay, so my answer choice will be this one, C, where it says F represents a price level that would result in a shortage of AC. Because this one, for 35 here, my aggregate supply curve is this, and my aggregate demand curve is this. Okay, so my price is gonna be H, and basically this is my shortage here, which is AC. All right, moving over to question number 36 here. All right, it says the aggregate supply curve is shifting from AS1 to AS2, and why would the aggregate supply curve shift from AS1 to AS2? This will be an increase in productivity. All right, the next one, question 37. Inflation is absent in which of the following graphs? Inflation is absent means price is not increasing. This is going to be this one. Price is staying the same for A and for C. Now question number 38 here. It says a decline in investment spending caused by interest rate effect of a price level increase. So price is increasing, interest rate is increasing, investment is going down. That means we are gonna move along the aggregate demand curve. Anything to do with price is associated with a move along the aggregate demand curve. So we are moving from point A to point B here along this aggregate demand curve. So my answer for question number 38 will be this one. You move from point A to point B in this. All right, lots and lots of questions here. Decline in productivity. This one will be caused by aggregate supply curve shifting to the left. Almost there. Question number 40, cost push inflation. This is caused by aggregate supply curve shifting to the left. And this is the answer here, aggregate supply curve shifting to the left. Question number 41 here. A shift from AS2 to AS3, like this one. So, okay, definitely this one. Increase in business taxes and costly government regulation. All right, question number 42. I went on and showed you the formula for productivity. This will be equal to real output over the input. So the first one is going to be 200 over 100. The second one is 300 over 150. After that, we have 400 over 200. So my answer choice will be 2. Question number 43. A decrease in real interest rate. This is gonna cause what? Definitely investment will increase. And the aggregate demand curve is gonna shift to the right. So I would recommend to look at the difference between a movement and a shift, like we did in one of the questions before. That was question number, this one. No, it's not this one here. This is question number, if you look at question number 38 here, anything to do with price, we are basically moving along the curve. And when something else happens other than the price, we are definitely going to shift the entire curve. Okay, so over here, the price was not changing. Okay. Yeah, my marker just stopped working for a minute. All right, question number 44 here. It says an improvement in productivity. This is going to shift the aggregate supply curve to the right. A lot of the questions are really repetitive questions. Next one, question number 45. The aggregate supply curve is upward sloping. Why? So the answer is gonna be A here. Per unit production cost rise as the economy moves towards and beyond its full employment real output. This makes sense. Now question number 46 here. A reduction in personal and business taxes. This causes what? This is definitely going to increase aggregate demand and also increase aggregate supply. Okay. Now question number 47 here. My MPC is equal to 0.6. Question is asking here, how much will investment demand change? So I have the formula for multiplier. This is equal to 1 over 1 minus 0.6, which is equal to 1 over 0.4. And this is equal to 2.5. Now the initial investment is 20. So how much will this change here? My answer will be 20 times 2.5, and this one is equal to 50 billion. Okay. Now moving over to question number 48 here. Investment increases by 10 and MPC is 0.8. You do it the same way here. You are going to find the value of the multiplier, which is equal to 1 over 1 minus 0.8, which is 1 over 0.2. How much is this going to be? This is equal to 5. So the final increase is going to be 10 times 5, which is equal to 50. So when investment increases, aggregate demand will shift to the right and by 50. Question number 49 is different because here the investment is decreasing by 20. So my aggregate demand curve, this will shift to the left. My MPC is 0.5 here. The multiplier, this one is equal to 1 over 1 minus 0.5, which is 1 over 0.5. So this one is going to be equal to, I'm going to do the math here. This one is equal to 2, and we have the initial is 20. So 20 times 2 is equal to 40. But remember, because the investment is decreasing here, the aggregate demand curve is going to shift to the left by 40. Be very careful about investment increase and investment decrease. The last one, foreign purchases effect, means an increase in US prices relative to other countries. This will increase US import and decrease US exports. So my net exports as a whole is going to go down. Alrighty, that's all for now. Thank you very much, and really sorry about the background noises.